Next up is Rory Canavan with SAM Charter. Rory does a great job with a process view of asset management, software asset management, and has really become a big voice in the industry. His topic today is going to be on machine learning and its impact on software asset management. I thought Rory might appreciate this shirt as we think about assets, asset registers, a list of all assets the organization has lost or soon will replace. Assets are a great investment, but they're difficult to keep track of. Now, here's Rory sharing his knowledge with us, and we thank him for doing so.
Well, hello everyone and welcome. My name is Rory Canavan, and today I'm going to give you a presentation on machine learning and software asset management, or at least my understanding of machine learning. I've seen a lot of posts recently about the role of artificial intelligence in IT asset management, and I'd not seen anything on a more core component of that, AI as it were, and that is machine learning. So hopefully over the next 30 minutes now, I'm going to give you something of an introduction to the topic, and maybe it will give you something you can take away and actually apply to your own organization. So what are we going to talk about, or what am I going to talk about? What are you going to listen to? I've got five primary aspects to this presentation. Firstly, what is a neural network? How can we apply this to SAM? Tips and tricks when applying key performance indicators, as they form a crucial part of machine learning. That whole thing of you can't manage what you don't measure. Finally, tips and tricks to apply to the machine learning model itself. So there's some aspects to watch out for there that that you wouldn't possibly think of if you just sort of threw your model up and said, right, let's see what it comes out with. Finally, any contact details. So if you do have any questions around the presentation, or indeed you wish to get in touch generally around SAM or ITAM, then please feel free to do so. And also some references and acknowledgements as well. I did actually do a tiny bit of research to save myself doing a bit of drawing there. So there's a few images to say thank you for there. So let's get this show on the road. What is a neural network? And I appreciate you could look at this diagram for this first time and look at all the statistical and mathematical notations and go, oh no, please. But it's not quite as complicated as all that mathematical notation. We can simplify it somewhat, and hopefully, as I take you through the SAM version, life will become a bit easier in explaining this. The reason it's called a neural network is because it is believed this is how the brain works, from the point of view that all these little circles represent neurons in your brains, and the arrows represent the synapses that communicate between the neurons. Now, when electrical impulses fire from one neuron to another, they go through a little machination, a little weighting, if you will. So you'll see there W11, W12, W13, etc. Whatever data or input is gathered at the input layer on the left-hand side goes through a weighting before it reaches the hidden layer. Now, what's a practical application of this? Well, when I did some studying many moons ago, when I was at university, I had to go through an AI module, and machine learning was part of this. And I found a paper from the IEEE on work that I think MIT had done to help the US Navy recognize sonar signatures of submarines. And so if you imagine that a sonar wave came in from the left-hand side and hit these input layers, what you're looking to do is to empower the captain of a submarine the ability to determine whether that sonar wave is in fact a submarine. Is it friendly? Is it foe? Is it a school of fish? Is it a whale? Is it a sunken wreck? And an interesting parallel to this, if any of you can remember back in the day when the Hunt for Red October came out, they did a sort of a little doffing of caps in the direction of sonar technology and methodology, and indeed neural networks as well, when they were talking about training Simon Beaumont when he detected his first whale at sea on USS Dallas. So that's shall we say, a practical application in the real world. What data comes into the left is your call. What output you want at the right-hand side is your call. But the thing to take away from that example is, of course, that the US Navy or any foreign Navy is not just going to sit there with a submarine and say, hey, US Navy, ping us from all angles. So you get an absolute complete picture of what our submarines look like underwater through sonar. They're not going to do it. So you've got to be stealthy to build up this picture, because it's not going to be a one-time ping and that represents that model and make of submarine. It's going to take a lot of data from various angles, from various depths, from various distances, to build up that sort of machine learning, so that you will have an ultimate optimal ping of what that submarine actually is. But what if it's 75%, or what if it's 60%? A figure that we arrive at the output layer. What we're looking to do is to be able to empower the intelligence in this instance, who would be the US, would be the captain of the submarine, to say, yes, that is a school of fish, or yes, that is a whale, or yes, actually, we're going to pursue that sonar ping because we believe it to be a submarine that is worthy of our attention. What you'll also notice is between the hidden layer and the output layer, there are further weightings applied as well. And then we arrive at an output layer for that final yes, go, no decision. So I think that's enough now for neural networks and submarines, because I'm sure that wasn't what you were looking to tune into for. So let's push on to the next slide and see how we can actually apply this to software asset management. Now, what I don't want to do is to scare you with this Mahusive image, but I do want to introduce to you the model that we built, purely based on the ITAM Accelerate Process Kit. So what you'll see in this particular model are 32 processes that run along the input layer, if you will. And then we've got higher considerations as to what goals or ambitions we want SAM to actually achieve. And so the inputs of the KPIs won't go to every aspect of SAM. So if you pick, for example, improved security, you're not necessarily going to pick each and every SAM process that is going to contribute to improved security. So that's why the lines you'll see on the screen here are colored. And I'm going to offer an expanded image of this so that we can actually talk around it in greater detail. So here's a snapshot of that image to save your eyesight. And the example I want to focus on here is number 6. So we've got software hygiene, and it only has 2 inputs, because for the purposes of this presentation, hygiene is keeping the IT estate lean. So for that primary goal, we're looking at the software removal process at number 12. And it's just getting clipped off the screen there. We have software recycling and license optimization process at number 9. So obviously the recycling activity that takes place keeps the IT estate fresh in real time. And towards the end of the life cycle, we've got the removal activity as well. So when software goes end of life, we should be removing it and potentially replacing it also if that sort of functionality is still needed, but can't be delivered with software that is obviously end of life. Companies get very tetchy about that kind of thing. Now, let's talk about the weighting, because it could be, for example, that you're starting out in SAM, and for whatever reason, you believe things are a proper mess, that there's been no recycling in a lifetime. Well, where do you actually start with that? Well, you could start at the end, for example, and say there's an 80% weighting on these activities to make sure that we get rid of technology that is no longer supported. So you would put 0.8, if you will, on the input of the percentage coming from the software removal process. And then as you start to gain traction and these titles start to disappear and you start to see the wheat for the chaff, as it were, you might think, well, okay, let's start thinking about the unused software that's sitting on the IT estate not doing very much. If we've got software that we've rolled out and we're not using it, let's get the IT estate lean. Let's get that down. So we'll put a 20% weighting on our recycling there. But over time, what you're going to find, of course, is that that dead wood at the end of the life cycle that is no longer supported is going to go down. So that 0.8 weighting that comes from the KPI generated by the removal process, that could come down to potentially 0.3 or 0.4, because now you're starting to get your IT estate in some semblance of order. And the remaining weighting could then go on the recycling, because now all of a sudden, well, let's focus on the now. Let's see what software we can remove and put back into the license pool to one of those requests that come through for people who actually want to use the software rather than just have it on their laptops because their workmates have it. So those weightings are to be played with. Once we take that weighting, and it could be just a straight addition of the two percentage values for software hygiene, and we arrive at a statistical value. And again, it's that thing of educating the model that, you know, we look at this data monthly. How are we doing monthly? How are we doing weekly potentially? And where do the weightings sit? What sort of calculation do we actually need to comprise to have a good definition for software hygiene as well? So it could be that you just crash the two percentages together and you say, there you go, there's our final outcome for software hygiene as a performance related matter in support of SAM at the top. Or you could, rather like the first image, go into some sort of, you know, statistical matriculation that has everybody scratching their head and going, huh? I leave that to the model builders, to the machine learning builders, and good luck to them. But what you see then are the lines ultimately go up to the final tier, the output layer then at that point. And this you arguably could, these top two layers, these hidden layers, you could turn into dashboards potentially for senior management to make informed decisions as to where they go with software asset management. Excuse me, but each node in the hidden layer has a weighting as well, as it contributes to that overall image. So I've color coded these because it's just easier on the eye. You get some idea of where the weightings go. And what you'll also notice is as well, for example, the software recycling number 9 contributes to more than one node above it. So it goes to asset utilization and review. I'm sorry, the yellow lines aren't as clear as they could be. Joiners, movers, levers, and there's one that's shot off the page there at the end as well, which I don't recall. So there's no reason why more than one node at the input layer can't contribute to the hidden layer or the calculation layer above it. So tips and tricks when applying KPIs. This is often quite important when we think about this. Try and make your KPI generation systematic. So what you don't want to do is employ somebody with a pen and a clipboard and, you know, make it a manual activity. Increasingly, the manner and means by which SAM suites are producing data, we've gone beyond compliance reports now. We're starting to delve into that idea of getting performance statistics out of processes, out of activities. out of base data gathering. So let the technology do the heavy lifting to gain those values. Try and make the format the same. So when we talked about the example of the sonar and the submarine, essentially it's a sound wave that is going back to all the input layers then at that point. So that's quite important to bear in mind. We didn't necessarily take the temperature of the sea, the distance of the ping. That comes into the overall calculation and equation, but we don't necessarily have that, if you will, we don't have an output layer for that in the neural network model. Being on the SMART acronym. So that's specific, measurable, attributable, realistic, and time-based. So when we pick these calculations, we should be looking to have some sort of statistical analysis as to what it is we're actually measuring at the input layer. They have to have meaning and value as well. So stuff that is ethereal about how does it make you feel? Are you happy after having run through the process? Those things are too variable to be actually of any value in contributing to the neural network and its means and ability to learn. Try and make sure too that any KPIs actually support SAM maturity as well moving forward, because if you're going to use a machine learning model, there has to be an ultimate goal. What is the zenith of what it is we're seeking to achieve? And it's interesting that we talk about this because at the top node, or the output node, as I had it modeled in the previous image, it was Sam, good Sam, Tom, if you want to call it that. A particular example that was highlighted to me, I had a colleague who was talking to a former CIO of a European bank. And he was talking about his various SAM and ITAM offerings, about how we can, through this tool or this activity, we can demonstrate cost avoidance, or we can highlight cost savings. We can talk about, reduced security risk. And the ex-CIO stopped him there and said right away, "You're pitching this all wrong." He said, what you need to be talking about is the money the bank sets aside for regulatory and auditory risk. And that pot is calculated based on the percentage of risk that the bank feels it is in as a result of those audits. Therefore, if you can demonstrate KPIs that reduce that level of risk, they can reduce that pot of money that they set to one side. And at that point, they're in a position to do something with that money. And that is a real win-win for any bank. So having some appreciation or context of the application of the machine that is doing the learning and the model that is being built is really quite important, and can make all the difference in what it is you're reporting and how you're seeking to report it. Have in mind too that is 100% a realistic ambition, and I think we seniors, if you will, in the SAM and the ITAM space, we have that notion well and truly battered into our heads with regards to gaining 100% of our inventory estate, or the inventory data from our IT estate. You're always going to have those off network or remote devices that aren't live to the network. And there may be some grey areas too on whether technology is IT, information technology, or whether it's operational technology and somebody else should be reporting on it. Or there could be geographic boundaries, and France or Germany decide we're going our own way, or maybe that should be the United Kingdom. But yeah, there's all these factors play into whether that actually, getting 100% for a process is absolutely optimal. And what you'll find as well is that percentage, if you will, of a target at the input layer the machine learning is designed to cope with the variances. So if, for example, you are aiming at 75% and you only hit 70, or you exceed 80, then that's what the machine learning is looking to do, is to determine whether that is good, bad, or indifferent, or do we unleash the hounds? What weighting do we apply to that statistic as it comes through and feeds into the higher calculations? Are you gunning for ISO 19770-1 certification? And the reason I mentioned this is because this model of taking performance data and feeding it up through management plans, operation management plans, through processes, through then to strategic asset plans and reporting there too, is going to be really, really helpful. So there are worse ways to do this rather than to sort of report on higher business and IT functions than to just generate a compliance report and hope that you've done everything okay. So tips and tricks to apply to the machine learning model, and if I've covered some of these already, I do apologize. But waiting for the inputs in the mid-tier should not exceed 100%, regardless of how many inputs it takes from the lower tier. What you're going to find is that if you do give extra weighting over and above 100%, you skew the hidden layer neuron. It's going to take precedence over the others. And what you really want to be able to do is to look at that middle tier. I think the eight hidden nodes as we had it in the SAM example, and be able to compare them like for like. Now, if you do want to skew the outputs of those, that's where the weightings from the hidden layer to the output layer take place. So don't feel that, software hygiene is more important than all the others, but we can't get that influence somewhere into the overall image of how that gets to good SAM. You absolutely can. You can put a heavier weighting on the output of that node into the definition of SAM at the top. And this point too, we talked about it with the submarine example, the depth of the water, the distance of the water, those aspects require you to take multiple sets of data and throw them at the model. And that's going to give you the ability to adjust or tweak the weightings between the input layer and the hidden layer, or then think about what calculations are actually taking place in the hidden layer. And as we said there, don't forget to apply weightings to the output layer then from the hidden layers. So as we mentioned there, if recycling or hygiene is of particular import to the vision or image of what SAM actually looks like, you can put a heavier weighting on that as it feeds into the overall sum as it reports up to the top of the output layer. So that takes me pretty much to the end of this quite short presentation, but I hope you got something from it. Please find attached or see on the screen there my contact details. If you do have any questions or you do wish to get in touch, I'm always about on LinkedIn. That too is my LinkedIn photo. So because I know there's a few Rory Canavans bouncing around. That just leaves me to acknowledge AstroML for their image on the third slide, I think it was, on what a neural network could conceivably look like. The remaining two images were from the SAM Charter vaults, so I thank myself for that. And also as well, the reference to the 32 processors, they come from the ITAM Accelerate process kit. So that's again myself and Kylie Fowler for thank you to Kylie for letting me use that for the purposes of this demonstration. Finally, of course, thank you to Jeffrey T. Fatilla of Service Management Leadership for letting me present today. I'm not looking at the time, and I haven't looked at my phone or my watch, so I pray this is coming in on the or around the 30-minute mark and is fit for purpose. If not, I might have to do this again. So there we go. Thank you very much for your time and for watching this. And if you do have any questions, do please get in touch.
Thank you once again, Pam, for sharing your expertise with us. It is valuable expertise. Please reach out to Pam with ways that she or Tactical Law can help you and your organization. Now, a word from our sponsor, Service Management.
Service management is complex. Each organization will have its own unique complexities. Solving these complexities is hard, very hard, because these turbulent times have caused changing organizational priorities. The increased dependence on partners has only increased complexities. Every organization has a shortage of in-house expertise. The technologies, integrations, and reliance on data has increased the complexities exponentially. Now we are asked to incorporate emerging technologies into our already complex environment. Solving these complexities is the only way to deliver value in today's service management world. Fact: most leaders are unhappy, very unhappy, with the value derived from their service management programs. Value is elusive, but it must come from getting the most out of your people, processes, and technology. And all three must work together. Every leader must ask themselves this one question: are you getting enough value from your service management investments? IT service management solves business problems, not technical problems, as said frequently by our founder, Jeffrey Tiefertiller. To solve the complexities and deliver optimal value, we must focus on the business problems that need to be solved and align our activities accordingly. Jeffrey and service management leadership have solved this for many companies and organizations and can do so for you. They are experts in getting the most from service management investments. If you are not getting the desired value from your service management investment, contact Jeffrey Tiefertiller at Service Management Leadership today. Help is on the way.